Welcome back. You're watching Profit Fundamentals. The Marcus.
Thanks, Samina. Budget lift for the market. As you said, auto, a lot of confidence coming in post the budget. Given the companies increasing prices, believe there's demand out there. We're going to review the budget with Ajay Srinivasan, the Chief Executive of the Financial Services business for the Aditya Birla Group. Ajay, first off, what kind of a budget is this? Would you say this is a balanced kind of budget, or is there a tilt towards the Aam Aadmi?
I think the budget is actually a very good budget, because I think it brings a very good balance between putting the economy back on a path of sustainable growth, as well as dealing with, I think, the big issue about financial consolidation, fiscal consolidation, because I think there's been a lot of focus on the government's finances and the deterioration in that over the last few years. This budget clearly addresses that issue, and I think by showing a roadmap for the drop in the fiscal deficit from 5.5% to 4.1% over the next 3 years, I think the Finance Minister has done an incredible job.
Yeah, Ajay, in terms of the planned borrowing of 3.45 lakh crore, what do you make of that?
I think the net borrowing has clearly come less than where the market expected it to be, and I think that got reflected almost straight away in bond prices today. The market is clearly positively surprised by that. But I think the lurking fear still remains on inflation, with what happens with the spread of service tax across to a few more categories, with what happens with the petrol price hike, how all of that plays through inflation, and then how inflationary expectations start building up into interest rates. So I think we'll have to wait and watch to see how that plays out. But broadly, I would say the markets, both the debt markets and the equity markets, reasonably happy with the 345,000 crore number in terms of net borrowing.
Yeah, Ajay, infrastructure, key area of focus. Everybody was looking to see what comes there. Higher spend, infrastructure bonds, but MAT at 18%. What are you making of the infra space? Has Pranab done enough?
I think the announcement about the RBI mulling over the granting of licenses to private sector and NBFCs into banking is a bit surprising, but extremely welcome move. We think it's consistent with the whole notion of financial inclusion, as well as the whole notion of bringing financial intermediation across the country. So we think it fits in very well with the program of the government, and we welcome it. We would obviously be very keen to participate in this. We are a very large player today in the non-banking space. This gives us a great opportunity to participate across the board in banking, which is today about 50 to 60% of the overall financial services sector.
Yes, Ajay, banking, that's an important point you raised in terms of the new licenses and yeah, the interest there. But let's move to the infra space. Do you think enough's been done there?
I think one of the big focus areas in this budget has been infrastructure. The other two would probably be rural and the financial services sector. But if you look at just the infrastructure sector, I think you can see considerably greater outlays across the piece, across all aspects of infrastructure. And I think that's very critical for us, given the Finance Minister's aim to try and get the economy to double-digit growth rates. Infrastructure is obviously going to be a key area to focus on. I'm not sure there is enough in infrastructure. I think there could have been a bit more allocation to infrastructure, just given the numbers and given what is required. On the issue of the 20,000 rupee additional amount available to individuals, I think that's very welcome. I think that's a great way of tapping the increased savings of individuals to be able to direct it into infrastructure funding, which I think will help in a big way on both sides, both from an investor perspective as well as from a borrower perspective.
Yeah, Ajay, sticking with the individuals and their taxes, revision in slabs, what does this mean for business?
Yeah, I think the cut in the income tax slabs and the change in that regime is really very welcome. I think, again, unexpected, but very welcome. I think it puts much more hands in the hands of the middle class of India, which will clearly spur consumption, a key driver of the economy in this country. I also think it will lead to increased amount of savings, all of which is important if we're going to grow capital formation in the country. If we want higher growth rate, it's very important that this saving starts getting generated and used for more productive purposes. So I think overall, a very welcome move.
Right, Ajay, the other thing that people were looking at or looking for in the budget was an indication on GST and DTC, and while the Finance Minister has given a broad indicative kind of timeline, was there anything more specific that you were looking for?
I think the market was looking for clarity in terms of both GST and the direct tax code. I think the finance minister took that fairly early in the speech, talking about the roadmap for both GST and the direct tax code. On GST, I think the very specific issue of not raising service tax, I think gives me some amount of confidence that GST is really not that far off. There's a whole host of issues that obviously need to be addressed on the administration and the sharing between centre and state. But having said that, the fact that service tax was not increased suggests to me that GST is really probably more on the way to getting done than not. The direct tax code, I think, still has several issues, and I think there's going to be a bit more discussion on that before you see the direct tax code coming through.
Yeah, Ajay, anything that you believe the finance minister missed out on in the budget?
No, I think actually the budget is a wonderful budget. I think it really does cover all kinds of sectors. It covers all sectors of society. Clearly the focus on rural India. You can see now the focus on middle class India. I think you can see the focus on manufacturing. Manufacturing has continued to show strength. So a bit of rollback in manufacturing rather than rolling back all of that, I think is good for the manufacturing sector. I think there's clearly focus on the infrastructure sector. So by and large, I think it's very difficult to find anything that would be drastically amiss with this budget, or anything that was missing with this budget.
Yeah, Ajay, you talked about infra, you talked about manufacturing, financial services, your business. What does the budget do for you?
I think our business is really a business about dealing with people's hopes and dreams in terms of creating their financial services and their financial future. I think this budget really puts India on a much stronger growth path, on a much stronger and more robust growth path. And as India grows and as the savings rate continues to grow in India, I think many more of that savings will be available for people like us providing services to access the increasing savings in the Indian economy. So overall, as long as India grows, as long as the savings rate continues to grow in India, I think there will be plenty of opportunities for financial services firms like ours.
Ajay, you've been saying a balanced budget. Anything disappointing in the budget? Any one thing that you see?
No, actually, I'm not disappointed with anything in the budget. I think it's a well-rounded and a very good budget.
Thanks, Ajay. Thanks for joining us. Ira, Samina, back to you.
And thanks, Sonal, for that. That was Deep Focus for Sonal Suchdev. Markets holding steady in the meantime at the day's high for the Sensex and the Nifty. That is all the time we have on the show. But up next is Biosub with Manvi and Ashwasana.